From the vault, high atop the pastoral center of the Diocese of Camden, you're listening to Talking Catholic.
Hi everybody, and welcome to another edition of Talking Catholic. I'm Jen Morrow, and with me is Mike Walsh.
Hi Jen, how are you?
Did you notice I didn't say as usual because you've been on the road without me?
That's right.
All around the diocese.
That's right.
And through August, you have tons coming up without me.
Yes, quite a few.
So exciting.
Many episodes that are Jen Morrow free. So if you've been hoping for that, listeners, you get a shot at it. You've gotten, let's see, I think you've gotten not quite back-to-back episodes where I hosted by myself.
Right?
Yeah, and I think
really? I thought there was just one. Were you hosted by yourself?
Wasn't there two that I hosted by myself?
I don't think so, because you, Miss Carrie Janice is joining you on one.
Yeah. I got. There's a lot of Carrie episodes coming. We have 3 Carrie episodes coming up.
Yay!
So if you really like Carrie Janice, you're going to get a lot of Carrie. No, it's actually, and 2 of them are food oriented.
Oh, your favorite subject?
Yes, one of them is about a restaurant, and one is about a gelato shop.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, both owned by Catholic entrepreneurs.
Oh, I didn't know you did 2.
Yeah, well, we've recorded one, and we're recording the next one soon.
Awesome. Okay.
It is.
That's good for August.
It is. We thought that as well. That's good August content. And then we have one with the award-winning host of Talking Saints, Laurie Power, about Vacation Bible School. So that one's going to be a struggle for me, but that's all right.
Oh, Laurie's doing the Vacation Bible School.
With Carrie and with Judy.
And apparently, we haven't even introduced her yet, but she's doing this episode as well.
I thought she was an award-winning host, but now I'm taking it back. She just jumped in.
That's right. So much great content coming up. Yeah, it's really good
So
stuff.
Laurie Power's here.
Yeah, we're gonna do one about the there'll be a new episode soon about the new executive director of Vitality Catholic Healthcare Services. So that'll be one. I think I want to do one about the about the massive welcome that we're going to have for Bishop Williams.
Totally.
And maybe do like a behind the scenes kind of podcast before it happens. Maybe get Father Rocks on for that and we can talk about all the...
We should video that. You know, that would be a great visual.
Okay. John
Kalitz
would be very excited if we did that.
I know.
I know. It's funny. But yeah. So, and actually, to tell you the truth, this August is a very exciting time. Not only are we preparing for the massive welcome for Bishop Williams, we are also very excited that our new seminarian mass is happening the first Sunday in August, and we're going to be welcoming 4 new seminarians. We can't announce it yet who they are, but we're really excited about the fact that they are coming on board. So yeah, it's really wonderful.
Yes, you can read all about it in the upcoming Catholic Star Herald.
That's right.
Because we will have pictures from John Kalitz.
From John, a rare John Kalitz as photojournalist instead of a resident photographer and digital creator.
That's right. He does everything.
He does do everything. But this will be an opportunity, because he always critiques my photography. This will be an opportunity for me to critique his news photography, which we don't get to see very often.
Excellent.
So, but we have a really cool group with us today. I'm very excited to bring them on.
Would you like to introduce them?
No. I mean, I could, but I could introduce one of them.
Okay.
I can introduce the award-winning host of our other sister podcast, Talking Saints. Hi, how are you? What's your name?
Hi.
What's your name?
Laurie Power.
Hi, Laurie Power. And did you have a nice time at the Eucharistic Congress?
Of course I did.
That makes me very happy to hear.
It was like heaven, Mike.
Okay.
I was sad to come back.
And actually, I have to give you credit. This is actually your podcast. You put all the people together and I really appreciate that.
I heard it was by request.
It was
From
by
on
request.
high.
We were specifically asked to record a podcast by the one and only Bishop Dennis Sullivan, our current ordinary of the Diocese of Camden, who has never requested a podcast episode ever before, specifically said he was so impressed by what he saw, because he couldn't go out to Indianapolis for the Eucharistic Congress. He was so impressed by what he saw out there, gave me a litany of things that we had to have the Catholic Star Herald report on.
Excellent.
And then made sure that we were going to have a podcast specifically related to the Eucharistic Congress. So, and I, for one, listened to my boss. But yeah, it was really impressive. So the organizers of the Eucharistic Congress deserve a lot of credit for that.
I agree.
Yes. So in addition to Laurie Power, whom else do we have with us?
We have your friend and my new friend, Sister Cecilia from the FMIJs. Hello, sister.
Hello. Nice to meet you again.
If
Or
anyone,
for the first time.
there you go. And of course, Sister Cecilia has been on with her fellow sisters on a FMIJ podcast we had a couple of months ago with Carrie, and that was really a lot of fun. Who else do we have with us?
We have Evelyn Cuttino, who is from Holy Eucharist Parish in Cherry Hill.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
And we also have Judy Marino, who is from the Catholic Community of Christ Our Light in Cherry Hill.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. So personally, I'm very excited to be on this podcast because when everybody here was at the Eucharistic Congress in Indianapolis, I basically texted, I think, everybody at, I don't know, probably the morning that you were driving there and said, hey, can I bug you for the next 5 days so I can do some articles? And Mike reached out to Sister Cecilia via text message and email. So I'm just excited to see everybody in real life, in person, and meet you. So thank you for letting us bug you. Thank you for being our reporters on the scene.
Yeah, that was really nice, actually, and for doing it in short order, because we know we kind of asked you all to help us do the reporting on the fly while you guys were there, but it was really wonderful. So, Laurie, I'm gonna make you the group lead out of this.
Okay. I'll do my best.
Would you be so kind as to tell me what was the Eucharistic Congress and why did you go?
Oh, dear. Okay, so the Eucharistic Congress, there is some precedent for this. I believe it was the 9th? 10th?
I think it's the
9th?
10th.
10th. Okay,
Yeah.
because we're working on the 11th,
Right.
2033 already. So this has happened in our country, but not for many, many years. So apparently the U.S. bishops saw that in a recent poll that there were many Catholics who did not believe in the real presence, like a very large number, even maybe a majority. And they felt like, well, what can we do to address this? So initially they began, it was like a 3-year process for revival at the diocesan level, at the national level, and then at the parish level. And part of the national revival was this Congress. And they invited Catholics from all over the country. And there were even Catholics there from outside of the country. I was talking to one of them who they're hoping to do this in Australia, and that's why she came to see how we did it. So,
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. It was cool. It's quite a trip from Australia. So, yeah.
Well, that's the thing is that, so we had been, the Diocese of Camden had been part of the Eucharistic revival in the diocesan stage, 2 years ago, and the parish stage a year ago, and then this was sort of the culmination of that. Was supposed to be the Eucharistic Congress. So we were thrilled to see that so many people were there. It was difficult for a lot of dioceses to take part because it's in the middle of the country and a tough time of year. So depending on what diocese you are, it was difficult to get travelers. That's why it was so wonderful that so many of our pilgrims decided to make the trip, which I know was no small task.
I'm very impressed that most of them drove.
Yeah, that's the other thing. That was
a true pilgrimage.
And if you haven't yet, I thoroughly encourage you to follow the FMIJ USA Instagram account because they do a great job. I literally followed their trek from New Jersey to Indianapolis via Instagram. So that's how I knew Sister Cecilia was there, so I could reach out to her on WhatsApp and say, hey, would you give me some thoughts? So that was very kind of you. Thank you for that. I've often wanted to ask Sister Cecilia, are you the one that runs the Instagram account? Because your personal account and the sister's account are very, very good. It's you,
Yes,
isn't it? Yeah, it is you. Okay. Well done, Sister Cecilia, because that is
Thank
truly
you.
impressive.
We tried. I think I learned it taking care of an Instagram account with my sisters in Italy, doing the same service for young adult and youth. Because we understood that it is an important way to be on the social in a serious way, but also funny, but also with picture and caption that can be a summary, but not too short. So there are many things that we learn in Italy, and I'm trying to do this also here.
You're doing it very successfully, so thank you. We try to share as much of it as we can, so we appreciate that.
Thank you.
So Sister Cecilia, you go. What inspired you and your sisters to make the drive out and to attend? Were you inspired to do it? Were you requested to do it?
We decided to go there as a fraternity, and finally, for more than one reason, 5 of us were there, and we were 2 vans, 10 people, so 5 sisters and other 5 friends or associates to our fraternity. So we were this small group driving, and as I was telling you before, I enjoy all the route toward the United States as a European person from far away. In any case, it's an occasion to see the differences among the American landscapes, and long trip, of course.
But Sister Cecilia was the first person in my entire life who's ever told me that her favorite thing to see was the landscapes of Ohio. That is a unique perspective, so thank you for that, Sister Cecilia. Alrighty, but it wasn't just the good Sister Cecilia and our beloved, whatever her name is over there, who were on this trip. What made you, Evelyn, what made you want to make this journey?
Well, my pastor sent me the information in December, and he said, you might want to consider this. And I called up my friend, and because we had done retreats together, several times, and I thought this will be like the retreat of all retreats, and we were for it. Jesus road trip.
Yeah.
And just ready for that revival.
Yeah.
And we got it for sure.
Wow, I wish I had talked to Evelyn before the issue of the paper went out, because I feel like Jesus road trip would have been a great headline in the paper.
That actually, come to think of it, that's maybe even a better title than the Eucharistic Congress now that I'm thinking about it. But that is the beauty of it. We've heard and actually we just talked about this recently on another previous podcast we did. Young people have this amazing event called the NCYC, the National Congress of Youth, whatever. And everybody calls it NCYC. I can never remember what it stands for. Anyway, I've always lamented the fact that there wasn't necessarily something for adults to go to. Now, this was certainly open to everybody. There were lots of young people at the Eucharistic Congress as well. But I really think a lot of people got that NCYC experience from this. It was so amazing. All the kudos to EWTN for all the broadcasting they did of it. It looked as amazing as an NCYC place. Like, you had a rock concert in the middle of it, a Christian rock concert. You had all the great speakers. I mean, it was 4 days of, in Lucas Oil Stadium, an NFL stadium in Indianapolis, hosting 50,000 pilgrims for 4 days with just more and more conversation and fellowship all about the Eucharist. I mean, and it was an incredible thing to see. So I'm so happy you came back to talk to us about this. So Judy, what inspired you to go out to the Eucharistic Congress?
So I guess my path was a little different. Last year at the beginning of the parish level, our pastor decided to put together a Eucharistic Revival Committee for the parish. So 4 of us were on the committee. I was one of them. And so throughout the year, we did activities leading up to this Congress. So I would write a weekly blurb in our bulletin about what was going on and what the roots of the pilgrimage were, and just anything inspirational to kind of bring attention to it so people would be aware of it. How to buy your tickets, here's the link, things like that. So throughout the year, I was on this committee. In addition to that, the National Eucharistic Revival had an amazing website, and they would reach out with emails pretty regularly. I kind of was laughing by the end. I'm like, are these emails are they going to slow down now? Because it was getting hot and heavy.
Still coming.
Yeah, I think they are now, because we're in our.
Today, I think.
Yeah, I think we did, because now we're in the next phase, and you're not off the hook. So, at any rate, I did sign up for all these emails, and then I would go to webinars that they offered. And they offered webinars with a lot of the speakers. Bishop Andrew Cousins did one. Tanner did one. His last name's escaping me, but he was very active in this whole process. And so they were very useful. And at one point, they asked if you were willing to be a parish point person. So I clicked yes, because I thought I'm already reading the emails every day, so why not? So I signed up for that, and then there was no there was no turning back. I knew in my mind I was definitely going. My sister, who's in the Diocese of Trenton, who lives in Burlington, she asked if I wanted to go. She was a parish point person for her parish. And then my daughter graduated from college, one of my 4 children, and she came home and said, "You're flying somewhere? I'd like to go there too." So very, Catholic Camden Diocese, Catholic schools all the way. So my sister, my daughter, and I all went, and it was truly a pilgrimage. I'll never forget it. We still all agree we're still processing it. It's not like it was a one and done. It's very much layer upon layer, and we're still trying to process it.
So it's interesting because I remember as soon as y'all were all on your way home, which was like a Sunday.
Yes.
Like the 21st, and the first person I called actually was Juliet, who is not on our podcast, but she's from Parish Shrine in Lindenwold, right? Guadalupe, and I asked her, and she said, I can't process it all right now. And I was like, this is going to be my answer to everybody, right? But it makes sense, right? I mean, is that something that you encountered as well, Evelyn?
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
And there were so many speakers that were just wonderful. And I stopped taking notes because I didn't want to miss anything. And then at the end of it all, I didn't really remember who said what. But it just felt like
you can go back and listen to them all.
I know, exactly. I started doing that. But it was a lot. It was just amazing.
Right.
So much.
I think that's the nature of pilgrimages, to tell you the truth. I mean, I took my Holy Land pilgrimage, a year and a half ago, and I'm still processing. I think about it almost every day, and that I still don't quite grasp what Jesus went through, but it was wonderful to see it and what I'm supposed to do with all that information that's now locked in my head. What were, Laurie, what were some of the speakers and what were the topics? Because I was actually wondering about that.
So
I saw the televised.
So many.
Where do you even begin?
Well,
we started with the papal nuncio the first night. I was like, okay, so we're starting pretty well. Like, where are we going to go from here? He was fantastic. Okay, help me out, everyone. I mean, every known Catholic speaker in the United States was at this event.
Bishop Barron,
Yes.
Father Mike Schmidt.
Yes.
Jonathan
Throw out any
Rubin.
name,
Sister.
they were there.
Christophanic, Sister
Yes.
Josephine,
Sister Josephine.
Edward
Right.
Street,
Mother Olga.
Mother Olga.
I heard Mother Olga's speech was powerful, is what I heard from some people. Is that
yeah,
so?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Was everything in the Lucas Oil Stadium? But there were other things. There were smaller, like breakouts
Correct.
throughout. Like what were some of the
we
breakouts?
had the whole convention center,
Yeah.
and then the stadium. I think all the revival evening sessions were in the stadium, and then some of the morning sessions were there because they were so big. And then I think they even used rooms in local hotels for the smaller breakouts,
Yes.
right? Because they
Yes.
had so many options for really any Catholic speaker, anyone leading an apostolate in the United States was at this event, Michael.
Hey, you know who
I'm
was-
like surprised if people weren't there,
That's true.
Including one of our own, by the way, Andres Arengo,
Yes.
was there on behalf of the Latino apostolate, and he was one of the speakers. And I know he was great as usual. He always is. He's an incredible presenter in that topic. But what were some of the breakouts that you went to?
So the one larger one that I went to was with Tim Glemkowski and with Bishop Cousins. Julianne Stans was also, and it was like a panel discussion about like what do we do with this now in our parish. Okay, so you've had this experience, like what does this mean for Catholics going back? And Julianne had a nice, or was it sister? It might have been Sister Alicia was on this panel as well. And one of them said, well, our goal is just to show people like Catholics, we're normal. Like we're somewhat normal. We can feel, people can feel comfortable being part of our community. And if we're full of joy, people will be attracted to that. So, I mean, that was the takeaway for me. And then Bishop Cousins told a beautiful story about his mother. So his mother is now in an assisted living facility. So she is just befriending the people who are there and, just inviting them to more social things, whatever she happens to be doing, or have tea with them. And then eventually when she gets to a point where she could say this, she'll say something to them like, oh, do you ever go to church? Are you Catholic? And for those that are, most of them will say, yeah, but I'm kind of like a bad Catholic. I'm away from the church. And so she jumps right in, well, you're only one confession away from being a good Catholic again. I was like, I love it. I think I'm going to use that with people.
That is.
So even, he said, any age, no matter where you are, you can invite people back to Jesus. That was their point.
Wow, that is very
breakout.
powerful.
And that actually ties with what the next third year is,
Yes.
being missionary disciples, and to this, the new phase is going to be to walk with one, and I'm air quoting, walk with one. So I was at that as well, and I was also at a parish point person breakout that they also led, and they said a very similar thing. Don't try to bite off more than you can chew. You basically pray to the Holy Spirit to help you identify who is the one person you could walk with, and how can you accompany them, and you kind of adopt them, you pray for them, you offer your conversation with them. It's not like shoving things down anyone's throat. It's really walking with them and bringing them back to believing in the true presence of Jesus in the Eucharist and in their relationships. And if I could add to that, I think one of the other cool breakout sessions I went to was hosted by Relevant Radio.
Mm-hmm.
So they were one of the sponsors. I think EWTN was one of the sponsors as well. So they had, and these breakouts, mind you, were like 5,000 people instead of the 50 or 60,000 people. So you're still in great halls in the Indiana Convention Center.
Oh wow, I didn't put that together.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, that's even Sister Josephine, I was in hers as well, and she joked, she's like, normally when I have breakout sessions, I do like small group things, but like small group would be 500 people. So there will be no small groups today. So I appreciated that. But the Relevant Radio, we said the Divine Mercy Chaplet together, which is, it's so powerful to pray with that many people that you just, like, the Spirit is there. You could feel it. It's just not words. You're definitely in the moment. They had a family there that helped lead it, who owned a first-class relic of St. Faustina.
Mm.
Oh, wow.
So at the end of the Divine Mercy Chaplet, a cardinal, I don't know his name, but came out and blessed the entire crowd with this first-class relic of St. Faustina, which touched my heart, because I've done the Diary of St. Faustina's podcast in a year twice. It's just so rich. I would highly recommend it. And they just read a snippet of it every day. So I'm very, I feel like, you could pick your all-star saint team, and she would definitely be one of mine on the team.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like a hidden grace that I did not see coming. And then walking through the convention center in the expo hall, just on a table for the Eucharistic Congress, I don't know if any of you saw this, they had a first-class relic of Blessed Carlo Acutis that people could go up to. I don't know if you saw it, but I bought my rosary. That was the sponsored rosary for the Revival Congress, and got to touch my rosary to the first-class relic of Blessed Carlo Acutis, who was one of the patron saints of this movement. So it was like those little moments that I didn't see coming that were just gems. So the only other thing that I thought was interesting in the Relevant Radio is they had a question and answer period. So they had a microphone set up, and people could come up and ask a question, and the gentleman, I forget which one it was, because there were several that do the different radio shows on Relevant Radio, answered the questions. And one person asked, what do I do for my fallen away Catholic relatives, especially my children? And I thought, well, that's like the burning question I think probably everybody there could ask. And the answer they gave, I did write it down. I did try to stop writing sometimes, but there were some gems. I was like, I'll forget that, so I'm going to write that. One was obviously to say the Divine Mercy Chaplet for them every day. That God's mercy, don't take it on yourself. Trust God. And the next one was pray that God will send a Philip into the lives of their children. And they had to explain that the biblical reference that there was a eunuch who didn't know, you may know this story better than I, but there was a eunuch in the Bible that wanted to know more. How do I follow this Jesus? I don't know anything about him. And Philip was the one that the eunuch asked, and so Philip preached about Jesus, and this eunuch came to faith. So the point was, you don't have to be the one that does it. Pray that God sends them a Philip. And I took a lot of comfort in that. I just thought that's an easy thing to take the burden off yourself as a family member, and ask God to help do it, because God can do anything. Those were my gems.
I'm starting to think I should have gone to the Eucharistic Congress.
You should have. Next one, 9 years. Get ready.
Was it
2033.
I said it to, and I said, I think I made a mistake not going. I was like,
Yeah, it was an extremely content-rich experience. So, Sister, I'm curious, what that you saw as part of the Congress, what did you take away from it? What was really powerful for you?
I like what she said about the small things going on, not small in itself, but of course on the average of the immensity of this experience. So I brought with me many people who stop me or stop also the other sister to entrust an intention of prayer. I brought with myself the beautiful meeting with many families. And I was surprised how these children were also quiet. So they can stay quiet in this big crowded mass or event, and everything was really organized in detail. So there was a part also for children to play, always with activity related to the Eucharist. So it was really welcoming also for them. And I think as religious we were 1,000 maybe, or maybe more, and so it was a beautiful experience also to see many other sisters or brothers, priests, religious community. A lot of them did have vendor booth. The better name was booth. Booth. So I had some information of them. The meeting, of course, just to know the names, the history, the different charism, and some material to keep in touch. Yes, and another thing that surprised me, I know that is mentioned on the newspaper, but was this Mass on Saturday morning, not with the Roman rite, but with the Syro-Malabarese rite. So something so rich, and it was written in every supplies that we receive in the program, but I have to confess that I arrived there without being aware of it. I didn't read this information on the program. And so I entered this in the same moment I had the experience to be in something new and different, starting from the disposition of the altar. The music was specific, belonging to this rite, but the same impression to be part of it, because of course this is Catholic Church too, and yes, really a richness that moved inside me a lot of questions.
Oh, that's powerful as well.
Yes.
When it brings questions up, I find that fascinating. Now, you mentioned booths, right?
Yes.
Now, Laurie, I've been to many events where I was, in fact, the booth babe of the event. You also got to be. You were there as not exactly a vendor, but you were there as a advocate for your chosen.
Vocation.
Vocation.
Yes,
there
we were
you go.
in the
Thank you.
vocation section.
That's right.
Which I think the Sarah Club or the Knights of Columbus basically paid for all the vocation booths, which was beautiful. So you saw so many religious communities there just sharing about their life. But I was there with the United States Association of Consecrated Virgins. We were also having a gathering in conjunction with this event. So there's about 25 of us there, which was great because I had never met any of them in person up until now. So that was an added blessing, grace upon grace. So they did have a booth, and I only manned it maybe for about 2 hours, but God bless the woman who handled all that and had to pack up a pallet to ship it back to wherever they're storing all this stuff. But it was lovely because people would walk by. I met a woman who was a pilgrim. So she had walked from Texas to Indianapolis. She is going to be, and she also is 7 years into doctoral studies in astrophysics.
Wow.
And she's going to be...
my kind of person.
Hold on.
All
She's
right.
going to be consecrated a virgin for her diocese in January. So I was whoa.
Did you tell her about getting on the podcast with us?
I can invite her,
Oh, yeah,
certainly.
I think you're going to have to. That's awesome.
So, yes. It was kind of fun. I said, so what are you planning to do with the... the degree when she finishes it. She's like, well, I'm kind of pivoting to like spiritual direction and to theology. I was like, no, we need you to have that science background. So yeah, I'm sure she'll do something awesome.
All right,
with
I'll put her in contact with the president of the Society of Catholic Scientists.
There you go.
Because they say the same thing. It's like, stay in your profession.
Exactly,
We need that.
Need it there.
I've said on numerous occasions that I look forward to the day I no longer work for the diocese, so I could be an advocate out in the workforce again and talk to my colleagues and stuff like
there
that.
You go.
I don't look at my time leaving the diocese as a bad thing. I think it's going to be a
You're
good thing. 'Cause
sent
I will
out
be
on
able-
mission.
I will then be truly a missionary disciple. So you guys all have to hope that Bishop Williams will come to his senses, fire me, and I can go back to the workforce.
So also we had bishops stop by the table. I was not there when this happened, but 2 of them invited us to come and hold our convocations in their diocese. They don't even have women consecrated yet. One of them said, oh, I'm consecrated. I'm preparing too. So can you come and meet her and
wow.
make it happen? So
Nice.
yeah, it was beautiful. It was very worthwhile, the
Very
the
nice.
efforts to have the booth there. For sure.
There was a question that was brought up while you were away on pilgrimage that I didn't think to have anyone reach out to you for. I know during the processions that the women religious and all the religious were a part of it. Were the consecrated virgins a part of it?
So here's the weird thing. So I actually did not walk with them because
Okay.
I was doing street evangelization with St. Paul Street Evangelization.
Okay,
So
of
they
course,
sent
sure.
people out to talk to whoever happened to be walking by so we could explain what was going on. But I don't think they did, which
Okay.
was a little strange. I'm not sure why, because on Sunday we were on the ground floor in the consecrated women section. So I'm not sure. Maybe they just didn't work it out in advance. And then
Okay.
you have to convince people, yes, we're really consecrated. that can be a challenge sometimes. Most of us don't carry the certificates with us. So, so yeah. They were there together I think they were among the lay people, though, in the procession.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's you consecrated virgins are hard to pick out of a crowd
See?
sometimes.
Well,
so
that's
it's-
right. They also had like scarves. We generally do not wear anything that would signify who we are, but we wore scarves so people could find us at the
Okay.
Oh.
Congress.
Smart.
That's just good PR right there.
There you go.
I support that. So Evelyn,
Yes.
this has been you drove yourself out, correct?
Yes. There were 3 of us.
3 of you, okay. That's got to be a bit of a drive. I'm
We're
curious.
still friends.
Okay, well that's always a good sign. Was the drive back different from the drive out because of what you had experienced while you were there?
Yes, because we were all like floating, just so happy and so at peace and so energized, even though, we were exhausted from the 4 days. It took me a week to catch up on the sleep, honestly. But
Wow, really?
because there was so much walking, we were in the stadium, in the convention hall, and in the hotels. And then my friends and I stayed at an Airbnb, which was a mile away. So we would start at 7:30 in the morning and walk, and that was beautiful, walking down the street and seeing all the sisters walking and the other religious. It was just like surreal.
Mm-hmm.
And then just listening to, starting the day with the rosary and the mass and the speakers. It was just, you were going from 7:30 and we'd get back at 10:30, 11. And the day would go so fast and taking it all in. And then not being able to sleep at night because you're just like so wound up.
Right.
So we didn't want to come home. We didn't want to come back, but
That's a
we
good
did.
sign.
Yeah.
We did. I think we got back to Cherry Hill around 1 a.m. on Monday.
And what were among your favorite talks or masses or breakouts?
The talks were awesome. I really loved adoration.
Mm-hmm.
It was so powerful, and because you have 50,000 people in the stadium, and there was silence, and everybody was kneeling in the bleachers, and reverent. It's just breathtaking. I can't describe how powerful that was. And then also on Saturday, the Eucharistic procession downtown Indianapolis, and the benediction they did at the end. So you have all the pilgrims kneeling in the park and on the street, and you hear O Salutaris, Tantum Ergo, and it's just like, wow, Indianapolis is getting so blessed. And they don't know it. But and so then after that, we had to hightail it back to the stadium, because you had to get there by the evening program started at 7, but you really need to get there by 6 in order to get a seat. We kind of missed that, but talking to the people from Indianapolis on the way back, and they're like, "What's going on?
Yeah.
How's it going?" And a couple girls, they're like, "Well, we're Catholic, but we didn't realize, and we had these other plans." And I said, "Well, I'll pray for you." And they were so excited. They were, so it was nice just to be able to share that with the people in Indianapolis and other pilgrims.
Including our Uber drivers, who all wanted to know, and they were every background.
Oh,
Muslim,
really?
what's going on? You guys having a rally or something? And we would tell them, and I wasn't holding back. At this point, you're all confident and filled with the Holy Spirit, so you're like, I'll tell this random Uber driver what I'm doing. And we did. There were 3 of us every time, so... By the end, a couple were like, "That really does sound interesting. I hope they do it again, because I'd go." So, which was wild.
Yes,
so,
I heard that
yeah.
too.
Now, Judy, you had the added benefit of your daughter Claire being with you, who's 22.
Yes.
So how was that experiencing maybe also what she was seeing as a young adult?
That was fascinating. And, Sister, you alluded to the fact that there were a lot of families there, which blew my mind. I said to my daughter before we went, "Listen, if they have anything for young people, feel free to ditch me and your aunt and go do the young people things, because otherwise you're going to be with a bunch of middle 50-year-old women, and I know that might get old." So she was like, "No, Mom, it'll be fine, it'll be fine." And because I really thought that's what it would be. I'm being honest, I really did. Yeah. So when we showed up and saw the number of families, and I mean families with multiple children, wagons, babies strapped, and the crowds, and I'm thinking, I'm a mama of 4. I would never have done this. I would never have had the courage to do this. Yeah. And these, not a peep. I mean, I didn't hear babies crying. And this is at 10 o'clock at night. We would be in that stadium or through the convention center where you're taking like baby steps. It's so crowded. It was like Disney on steroids, like trying to get through the crowds. So like I have a lot of analogies. So anyway, that was amazing. So I was very, it inspired so much hope to see so many young families and young adults, and there were youth groups there. So my daughter was not the only 20-something with a bunch of 50-year-old women. Like I was relieved right from the start about that. And honestly, I don't think she cared, because it was very much we were all one. It didn't really matter your age, didn't matter if there were people in wheelchairs, on scooters, you just moved out of the way. It was the most joyful group of people. Not like the Christian Crunch leaving the church parking lot. It was like, it was for real. I say this because it's true. It was very, don't you think? Like, am I the only one that saw that? It was like, wow, we're not like pushing ahead and shoving through the crowd.
Everybody was so polite. And they were thanking the security guards and even like the police detail that was going in the procession. They were waving, "Thank you." So they were all happy.
And even the guards at the Lucas Oil Stadium, when we were leaving, they'd be like, "Thank you all, you were a great crowd." And I'm thinking, well, yeah, we weren't like drunk sports fans, like leaving a mess behind us, but we were a great crowd. She was right. But back to my daughter, I think, she was a communications major, English, writing, digital media, publishing, and she brought a big blank journal with her, and she wrote and wrote and wrote, and that was her way to process this. And she even asked me the other day, she's like, "Are you still like processing this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I am. I have a basket of the books I bought and the stickers we got and all that. I'm like, I'm not getting rid of them yet. I'm going to read every one of these books." And so I know it's still on her mind, and I know it's sitting with her, kind of similar, like, what do I do with this now? And I imagine that's very hard for young people today, where talking about your faith isn't necessarily an easy thing to do, but I think she was inspired to not be afraid to do that. I don't want to speak for her, but I'm hoping she'll write a little something.
I'm now hoping
Already
she'll write
dropped.
a little something.
Yeah,
down, too.
she's spoken to some people about doing that. I don't want to speak for her, but I know that's on her heart. That's her way of processing it as well. So it was very, very refreshing to see the number of young people, the number of families, and awe-inspiring to see the number of seminarians, sisters, religious, deacons, priests, bishops, cardinals. Like that overwhelmed me. That overwhelmed me. And the first night, the Wednesday night we were there, and I want to touch on what you said, Evelyn. They started in Lucas Oil Stadium. The MCs came out, if I remember this correctly. Father Josh Johnson, Sister Miriam James Highland, and starts with an M, Miriam, bilingual.
Yeah, I forget her
Beautiful, beautiful trio. They basically introduced themselves and said, "Please kneel."
Journalist, yes.
Yeah, they said, "Please kneel," and it was like, and that's when the Eucharistic procession began. And this monstrance was 5 feet in size. Spotlights, like the lighting, the sound were phenomenal. Only white straight lights onto Jesus as Jesus processed in up to an altar. Like you said, you could hear a pin drop. Everyone's on their knees on cement. I mean, this is a stadium. It's a cement ground, right? And you could hear a pin drop. And I just had this vision of, again, I think of analogies. Took my daughters to see Taylor Swift in Pittsburgh. 75,000 people in the stadium, sold out, not a seat available. The energy in that concert, we were outside on the grass getting a free concert, was electric. Like, this is how it was at Taylor Swift. And you knew when she came on, because outside you heard the roar go from a roar to an intense roar. This was like the exact opposite. You knew Jesus was in the house. Jesus was the star of the show. This was the main attraction. And he was first. He was brought up to the altar, and it was deafening silence. It was so beautiful. There's like no word. It was still electric, right? Like, I'm looking at my friends here.
Yes.
It was electric. You felt it. There was energy, but it was silence. You knew in whose presence you were. That's really, that was the best way to start it. I thought that was the best way to start. Whoever planned that was key. That was spot
I
on.
was very surprised that that's how we started. And then I
Spot
was equally
on.
surprised. We had a holy hour every night.
Yeah, we did.
I was like, they're good. Wow.
In the middle
so
of the
they
speakers.
really, we were coming together for the Eucharist. It was not about the speakers. So
Absolutely.
There was no question.
I know. I believe it was Deacon Bob Hamilton from your parish, Evelyn, that said, "Can you imagine being in a football stadium with 50,000 people, and the only noise you hear is the air conditioner?" Like,
true.
just envisioning that, like, that's impossible when you think about that, right? But wow, what a way to paint a scene.
Yeah.
Oh, they did.
Just to go back to your daughter for a second, 500 to 700 words is what we're looking for reflection.
I'm already on it.
Okay, all right.
I already offered her a
She'll
job.
do whatever you
Okay,
like.
just
In the
job.
car on the way home, I said, "By the way, do you want to work for the Catholic Star Herald?"
All right, job and yeah, 500 words to start is cool. Yeah.
Did you hear that, Claire?
There you go.
Yes, Claire. I'm still waiting for my email.
And Claire, we have digital options for you as well, so you can come work for me
Be
as well.
careful.
So we talked about this a little bit briefly. I think you brought it up, Laurie, which was the point of this was to be inspired by the spirit of the event, to have a better understanding of the Eucharist. But the marching orders are to go out and bring this everywhere you go. So Laurie, as someone here who not only is someone who lives their life a certain way in the faith, you are a minister of the faith as well. How are you, or have you considered how you're going to bring what you experience there to your parish and to the greater diocesan area?
So they gave us a way to do that. The initiative that the revival is putting forth is called Walk with One. And it's very simple. You really just ask the Holy Spirit to show you one person who is maybe away from the church, who is Catholic, who you have access to, and just walk alongside them. Not necessarily immediately say, "Hey, do you want to come to church?" No, because most times they'll say no. But just get to know them better, invite them to dinner, invite them to your house or to something social that you're doing. And then most of us would probably be at Mass or at church events. We just invite them once you have that maybe deeper connection, invite them to those events, you know, and then the idea would be they would start to ask, like, what's different about these people? Why are they filled with joy? Or why do they come every Sunday? Or why would they come to Eucharistic adoration? And then that would open a door to explain that and invite them to join you. So very simple. I'm still waiting for the Lord to show me who that one person is. I think it might be someone in my family, which kind of surprised me because very often those are the hardest people. Right. But God seems to be opening the doors. So if we trust him, he will do that.
Well, good luck with that.
Thanks, Mike.
Did you all get that same sort of marching order? Or
Yes. And actually, we had adoration last night at Holy Eucharist. And every Wednesday, yes. And at the end of that hour, somebody came to mind, and I was surprised. I'm like, but thinking, okay, I can do that. I can try.
That's all that God ever asked us to do, is to try.
Right.
When they had the parish point person breakout session, and then they talked very much about what's the next step, and they really kind of broke down for these parish point persons, I guess, the importance of, they said the Eucharistic missionaries need three things. Embodiment, meaning like you should be humble, you should be embodying what Christ was like and is like. Endurance, there were the 3 E's. Embodiment, endurance, in other words, you're not going to do it all in one day. This is a long-term plan. And expectation. And the thing that struck me, because I'm a little OCD, I admit it, not diagnosed, but I think I am. I want things done a certain way. I want to be in control. I feel very confident when I'm in control, and clearly there's many things I have no control over. And this kind of thing would be one of them. And it's not my thing to control. That was like the message I took away. It's that we're planting seeds, the fruit of which we may not ever see. And that struck me. And the other one is just put aside any expectations that we have for results and trust that God will know what to do with things in his time. And those are the 2 things. I'm like, okay, then I can do this. Like, okay, if that pressure's off, this is really in God's hands, not mine. It's not mine to control. I can do this. So I can plant seeds. And even if it's me telling someone else about my experience to walk with one and they do it, then I've planted a seed that is now taking off. So, they said just make sure you're listening and you're being honest with whoever it is you kind of are walking with. Be able to pivot. Like if you have your own expectations, don't always assume it's going to go that way. Just pivot with them and be committed to them and pray for them. So, those were my takeaways of that. That's very much like you said, Laurie.
That's beautiful. How about you, Sister Cecilia? What did you take away from this? What are you bringing back to South Jersey and Italy?
The words of Cardinal Tagle in the closing homily, the closing mass, are echoing in me. He was one repeating this short go, go, go. Mm-hmm. This was one of our things in the drive back home, to listen again his homily, and I suggest it to everyone because it is available in YouTube, the homily of Cardinal Tagle, so it's a suggestion for and it's always this balance on big dream, big call to do great things, and the little possible step in the reality. So it was a challenge before and after the Eucharistic Congress, but the reality, the experience not to be alone is something that gives me courage.
Yeah.
Yes.
And to anybody listening to this podcast, we all might be thinking, who's the one that we can walk with, right? Mm-hmm. But also, I'm sure there's people listening who might be the one that needs somebody. And maybe hearing what all of y'all are saying is maybe if you need somebody, you can reach out to somebody who would be a good person to walk with.
they can contact you, and one of us would be happy to.
I'm 100%
To share. Yes.
for sure.
So reach out to jennifer.morrow@catholicdiocese.org, right?
Yes, and I will put you in contact with one of our wonderful pilgrims.
And there are many more that aren't here right now
Right.
that were
Yes.
there. So,
Yes.
yeah, that's for sure.
You know, the next one is, 9 years from now,
Yes.
I believe? Is it still
2033.
2033? And the plan is, did they say it was going to be back in Indianapolis? Did they already
they did
announce the
not say that.
They
location?
did not.
Okay. Would you like to see yourself back there in 9 years? Would you encourage other people to go back in 9 years?
I would take a
Definitely.
bus or two, I think.
Yes. Yes.
100%,
Yes.
yes.
Yes. 100%.
Well, actually, from what we heard, those of you who drove yourself out and got Airbnbs actually had the best experience. What we found was that the people who got hotels might have been miles outside of town. Exactly. And busing was a little tricky and stuff like that. So there is something to be said for going your own way. To your point, however, Laurie, it is wonderful to go out and bus loads of human beings. That being said, for those of us who are introverts, I'm doing the car by myself and getting an Airbnb.
Just bring your son and your wife.
I'll meet you guys out there. Yeah, sure, no problem.
I will say my airplane was full of people going, and my airplane home was
Me
full
too.
of people going home.
Oh.
You were in our row. I
Yeah.
don't know if you knew it, Laurie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you
I
were
didn't-
next to Claire.
okay.
She,
Oh,
the one person
perfect.
in between you. But and that was also neat because people on the plane, strangers, would say like, "Are you coming from the Congress?" Like whisper, "Yes, I am."
Or they'd notice, why are there 4 priests on this plane?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
Yes, this is either good
and
or
multiple
bad.
sisters. Yeah.
Yeah, and we were at the hotel near the airport, and there was a bus from Michigan or something. They were staying there as well, and we would stand outside waiting for our Uber while they got on their bus, and we're like, "Oh, can we get on your bus?" But no, it's fine. We got to talk to a lot of Uber drivers that way, and that was neat too.
That was your first role of missionary discipleship
Yes.
right there.
Yep.
Going out to
Lead
the
me
people.
where you need me.
That's
Just-
exactly right.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I kind of took away from it, from someone who watched it. And I know we've been using this term missionary discipleship, particularly in the Diocese of Camden since 2019 when we had the convocation. But I to this day, that is something I absolutely believe in my heart is the responsibility of every Catholic, any person of faith, but particularly for us in the Catholic faith. You know, we really have to go out and be comfortable being very public, which is why I liked so much about this Eucharistic Congress, was that there were so many public spectacles where you couldn't help but notice. I know it was covered by the Indianapolis press. I know it was covered by the national press. There was AP stories about it. I mean, it made secular news, and that is so important to see 50,000 people come together without a pope involved, without it being a protest of some kind. No, these are just people coming together for the very fabric of our faith, in the presence of the very fabric of our faith, just to be together, to learn more and to understand and then to go forward. I mean, it really is. And it's a very unique, like, I'm not sure that it necessarily would have been something had I not had this job, I necessarily would have been inclined to participate in as a secular person. But having heard all the secular folks who went, now I feel like I would have missed out had I not done that. But I've been a proponent of all sorts of organized events like this. I mean, even the small ones, even if it's just like we had that youth congress down in Egg Harbor Township that 200 youth went to.
Right.
That it was created by youth for youth. And was such a wonderful day. You were there. You had a great time.
There were like youth from 4 different parishes there.
Right.
Yep, like St. Catherine Drexel, Dream On Youth Festival.
Yeah.
And they were inspired by NCYC.
That's right. So apparently NCYC rules the world. That's what we've learned. But it certainly is an example of what what people can do when they come together, and the benefit of doing that. You know, I get people asking me all the time to live stream stuff, and yeah, sure, you know, there's a reason to do that. But nothing compares to being together as a unified group together in community, showing our faith and showing the fellowship between ourselves. So thank you all for agreeing, number one, to be on the podcast, but more importantly, for agreeing to go to the Eucharistic Congress, and then at the drop of a hat when we asked you to suddenly become journalists to do that as well. Thank you for everyone who gave us, including the people not here, who sent us photographs
Yes.
and reflections for the Catholic Star Herald newspaper and for online. We really did appreciate that. Sister Cecilia, keep up the good work with your Instagram account. We very much enjoy following that. So that's, I think it's FMIJ_US. Yeah.
Yes.
So for anybody who hasn't yet, you should follow that on Instagram because it's really, really good. And yeah, that's about it. So congratulations, everybody. Thank you very much. And to our listeners, we'll be back again next week. See you, everybody.